We're so glad that you're joining us today for EC Talk. We have an amazing author, and maybe you have found yourself in a position where your childhood looked nothing like what you were able to crawl out of. I think a lot of us can relate to this. We're going to bring in Dr. Lynette Charity. We're so glad that you're here. Um, Thank you for sharing your book. I want you to talk about this escape plan, Dreaming My Way Out of the Projects. Welcome.
Thank you, Suzanne. How are you today?
I am so good, and I love the message that you have, and you're so passionate about it. And I feel honored to be able to talk to you today because you have so many angles that you're coming at, from military, from medical, comedian. Like, how many facets of this diamond is there? I don't normally
Thank you.
start with personalities. I don't normally start with a bio, but you are so interesting, and you've got so many different layers to you. I'd love for you to just touch a little bit so that we can bring listeners in and viewers from all angles that I don't normally get. Talk about your comedy and your medical and your military.
Okay, let's see. In a nutshell, let's start with the fact that I recently, I retired from anesthesiology.
Mhm.
That was my career for over 40 years. Back in 2020 during the pandemic, and I had sort of an epiphany or an idea. It's like, now what do I do?
Mhm.
What am I good at? I put people to sleep. That's what I'm good at. But I can't do that just on the road. I just can't just
Right,
go around with my little trailer.
right.
So one night I was just thinking about this, and I went, you know what? I'm going to be a stand-up comic, lounge singer, voiceover actor. Now that came out of somewhere. I don't know where, but my patients and some of my colleagues had said, Lynette, you have a very good speaking voice. You're funny, and I'd always wanted to sing because I saw Fabulous Baker Boys with Michelle Pfeiffer. And I said, I could get in a red dress and sit up on a piano.
Mm.
Well, two of those fell apart, meaning that my voice teacher said, Lynette, you'd never be a solo artist. You could
Okay.
do backup, but your voice, your contralto, which I didn't even know what it was. So that went by. And then I tried doing some voiceover work, but nothing ever took.
Yeah.
So that left
It's a very
comedy.
saturated field, so that left comedy,
I left comedy.
and
Yes.
that's where you shine.
Well, I hope so. I should back up a little bit in that I went to see someone about becoming a stand-up comic, and it was suggested that I do public speaking
Mhm.
because, to be honest, they said comedy may not pay you very much. Now, it wasn't about the money; it was about the validation.
Sure.
But I listened to what she said, and so I joined Toastmasters, which is
Mm.
a group for public speaking. And lo and behold, I started doing my little 5 minute talks, and person came up and said, you could be in our contest. I go, what contest? Well, our speaking contest. So I started speaking in the contest. I started winning in the contest, and I went all the way to Kuala Lumpur, and I won a trophy in Kuala Lumpur,
My
a
goodness.
third place trophy. But the bottom line was that it gave me the confidence to say, all right, I'm taking this show on the road, and I became a professional speaker. And with that, I ended up speaking on depression, suicide, and burnout to physicians and
Mm.
other healthcare providers.
It gave you a platform
Yeah,
needed. How beautiful is that? How amazing God sets things up.
yeah, it
So
was it
cool.
was it was amazing because of the fact that when I started doing those talks, people would come up and say, "You need to write a book.
Mm, mm.
You have so many inspirational, motivational things in your life that you need to write a book." And I went, "I don't know how to write a book." But one thing I can tell to all of you listeners, you have a story in you.
Mm.
You just need someone maybe to help you pull it out. And that's what I did. I got a book coach, and the rest is almost history. It took me 3 years, but it was a cathartic trip, a journey that I needed to go through. It took me a while. I'm 73 now. It took me a
Mm,
while to get to the point where I could share some of the my backstory that I wasn't very happy with.
okay,
But it was needed. It was
right.
needed to warts and all, I said, just tell it
Don't
warts
you
and all.
think that a certain maturity comes, a certain amount of wisdom and humbleness, I think, in age that we just go, "This is for better or worse who I am," you know?
Yeah, I can't change it,
Yeah,
but if this will help someone else, so be it. And I've had
absolutely.
so many people, Suzanne, that have said, "I read your book," and they are black, white, whatever spectrum, male, female, and they find something in that book that resonates with them.
Great, too.
And that's the whole idea behind all of it.
We are gonna jump into your book, but I am so fascinated by how fierce you are that I think it all ties in. You see a challenge, you see a mountain, and you're all in to climb. Most of us are like, you know what? Good luck. Let me know how we're not looking to climb. We're look at the mountaintops you've accomplished. I mean, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. You retired. What did you do? You had three. Okay, you not failed, but two didn't work out. You found the one that did. Like you're so resilient. I have to believe that the difficult childhood built you to who you are in every beautiful, perfect way.
You're probably right. When I was writing the book, I just kept saying, what were the turning points in my life that I need to share? And as I picked out certain parts of my life, I went, you know what? If this hadn't happened to me,
Yeah.
would I be the person I am today? If this hadn't happened, and it just made me reflect on the fact that some of it was not pretty, but it made me the woman that I am today.
Dr. Charity, it's time to dive in and talk about your childhood being segregated in the South. Uh, let's just start with that before we get into your parental role models. Let's start with what it was like being segregated in the South, what that meant, and how that built you.
Well, I was born in 1952, and I lived in Norfolk, Virginia. And as you said, it was segregated, meaning that, and I lived in the projects. That's just what the housing was for most minorities back then. And it was my world. It wasn't a bad world, but seeing white people was an oddity because our community was so inclusive in us. We very rarely would go out of the area where we lived.
Mhm.
But I was so concerned because I grew up in a dysfunctional family. My father was an alcoholic. My mom was a battered mom. And I just, it scared me to think that that was going to be my life because I saw a lot of that in my community. And so it was one of those things of what can I do? I had no real role models to help me. So it was like, what do I do? And 1954 was the Brown versus Brown Board of Education statute from the Supreme Court about school integration. But I tell people Virginia didn't get the memo until 12 years later. But
Wow.
there I was, 1966, and I decided that I was going to go to this white high school, be one of the first blacks to go. And I felt I needed to do that because when I was 9 years old, I was watching a show called Ben Casey, a medical drama, and this man comes on, and it was almost like he was speaking to me. And I still remember turning to my mom and saying, Mom, I'm going to be a doctor. And she goes, That's right, honey. That's fine. But about 6 weeks later, I come home from school and there is a medical kit on my bed. Inside of it was a stethoscope and a syringe. And I went, Dr. Charity is in the house. And my mom in the background supported me, but she said, Lynette, you have your own path. And I don't think that I have any wisdom to give you to help you except to not say no. She did say no to me
Wow.
going to the school, So what I did was I forged her name on a permission slip. And when she found out, I really thought that she was going to give me, as we say, what for. And she goes, you know, Lynette, it sounds like you're committed to this. You want to do this. I'm just going to step out of your way. Just going to step out of your way. And that's the way it was. She never ever dissuaded me from doing anything when it came to that, because I said, I got to get out of here. I can't stay here. You know, you're
Wanted
here.
the best for you, and she saw that you had the spark to make it happen, and she wasn't gonna put that light out.
Yeah, I
What
guess
a
you're right.
what an emotional, amazing story, and how, whew, the wisdom of your mom, she could have just stayed right in line with what was safe and what was normal, you
For
know,
that time, yes.
and comfortable, you know?
Yeah.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. And you said that your father, very difficult being an alcoholic.
Yeah, and you know, the more I think about him, people ask me if I can forgive him for what he did. That's a big thing when I do book signings and stuff. And I say, no, I don't forgive him, but I understand him
Mm.
because he was a he joined the military for World War II. Black men were joining the military and it was segregated. And he went to the Philippines, and they wouldn't allow them to do a lot of fighting. They did the tasks that they used to do, which was, you know, cooking, cleaning, driving trucks. That's what my father did. He drove a truck, but he drove the dead truck, which means he went out on the field to pick up dead bodies. And one day, or I don't know if it was a day or night, but his truck turned over and he was buried under all of these bodies for hours until someone found him. And I tell people, I think that's when he snapped. They brought him back to the United States. He was in a psych ward. They let him out after a year. But my mom knew none of this when she married him. You know, so and he functioned pretty well, but he only functioned if he was drinking. And when he was drinking, then he got violent because he was reliving some of that was going on. Of course, I didn't know any of that growing up. All I saw was this man, he gets drunk and he beats my mom. And I said, that's not going to be me. That's not going to happen. And so I felt that education was the key. And I felt that going to the white high school, because our books were so far behind the white books, you know, the schools in the white schools. And I couldn't understand why we didn't all have the same edition. I do make a joke about the fact that Alaska and Hawaii were still territories in my book,
Wow,
and
wow.
they had become states.
You know,
So
I'm
it's
half laughing and I'm half crying because I feel my heart just is reaching yours, and what you had to overcome is what most of us can't even begin to imagine. We had such an advantage, and there's just no words. So,
well, the most important thing is that I felt very strongly. I had a purpose. I felt like I needed to get from point A to point B. And that was in my mind. And I refused on both sides of the aisle. I refused my neighborhood trying to hold me back. They did not want me to go to the white high school. They thought back then we used to be called uppity by a lot of people. Well, we called each other uppity too. Here I am thinking that that education is better than the education I was getting. And I didn't say it to them, but it was. It was. And I just felt like I needed to do that. And on the other side, once I got into this white high school, I was an honor student. I won the French contest, you know, because I loved French. And my teachers, in a way, were kind of pleasantly surprised, I guess. Some of their stereotypes were being worn down, except for the guidance counselor when I told her that I wanted to go to college and then to medical school. And first thing out of her mouth was, you know, no medical school is going to take a colored girl. You should just take typing and become a secretary. And she would not help me. She just wouldn't help me. I
wow.
I
What
I
did you
didn't.
do? What did
Huh?
you do? What did you do? Who did you turn to? Who
Well,
did help you? Who were your
who
role
did help
models?
me was it was so funny because she does that. I get on the bus, I come home, and literally I got off the bus and I stood up. I said, somebody help me. I just sort of kind of yelled it out. And I was just really, really sad. And went home and I sat on the porch of my house. And my mom came out and said, you won't guess, Lynette, what just happened. I go, no, Mom, what? This lady called me from this college. I can't remember what college it was. But anyway, they want you to come up and interview. Short story is that I had, we didn't have the internet. We had nothing back there, but somehow this woman's college in Pittsburgh had found me. And they offered me first a bus ticket to go up there to interview. And all the admissions person said was, would you like to come to Chatham College? And Chatham College was $3,000 a year at the time. And my dad only made $6,000 a year. So I said, I can't come. She says, I didn't say anything about money. Do you want to come? And I go, yes, I do. And I left there with a full 4-year scholarship. And I went back to my school because I was still a junior. I still had to do a
Wow.
senior year. And I walked around with my
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Charity, I see that as a double-edged sword. While people were excited and happy for you, they were also feeling a little bit jealous. And who does she think she is?
yeah.
You've been very blunt and very real in this book. You share your family life in this memoir. How has that been received? To what side of the coin? Is it, "I'm proud of you," or "How could you reveal this stuff and be so vulnerable?"
Well, you can imagine I started writing this book in my late 60s. My mother died in 2018, but I ran a lot of this by her, especially the chapters that involved her.
Mm.
And she goes, well, it's the truth, Lynette. I made my bed, I had to sleep in it, and, it doesn't bother me. The other people in the book, my family, my father died very young at the age of 50, and my brothers, I had a little bit about them, especially my brother Steve. I let him read his chapter about us playing with matches, and he said it's well written, Lynette. And that was great because in the book I talk about the fact that after my sister was killed, my father felt that it was Steve's mistake that she died, and so he wouldn't allow him to come live with us when we moved. So I didn't see a lot of my brother after the matches incident. And then I started seeing him more, and we've reconnected and we've talked about the family, and he's okay with it too because he says it's your story. You're the one that imagined it. I can't correct you on any of it because it's your story. It's what
Your
you saw.
perspective.
Yeah.
So there is an emotional maturity that's running through the family, that's woven, that I can see, that, you're all looking out for each other.
Yeah. Yeah, we protected. My father was a difficult man, and as my brothers got older, he stopped what he was doing because they were big boys, and they could punch his lights out if they
Mm,
had to.
mm.
So, and then he ended up getting cancer, and my mom took care of him until he died. And she said, he's still my husband, kind of thing. And I said, after all the things he did to you, you're going to do this. She goes, well, someone has to do it. And she was a widow at 46. She never remarried, and but she did because she dropped out of. She actually went to college for a couple of years, community college, and then she met my dad. They married, and then she had dropped out, but after he died, she went back to school. She got a teacher's certificate. She became a caseworker. She learned how to drive. She got her license. She got her first bank account in her own name. So this is partly where she was kind of subservient when it was appropriate. But after she got her freedom, she just took off.
I think they call that leveling up now, don't they?
Is that what
It
it
I
is?
think they do. They call it leveling up and glowing up. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and when I
Wow.
started
Mm,
speaking, she would
mm.
come with me on my I would just let her travel with me, and they would ask her, "Is that a true story, Miss Charity and everything?" Yeah, it is, it is what it is, that kind of thing. But she loved the spotlight of being with me. And she was funny. So I think that's where I get my funniness too.
Yeah, do you think that through some of the pain you found that humor?
I you, I mean, if you heard my humor, I do talk about certain aspects of my life, but I just make it funny.
Yeah.
I make it so fun because it makes people laugh, and it also shares with them, that how you can take is this is cliche, but take a frown and turn it upside down,
Mm,
just because of the fact that you know it's funny. You cannot continue to dwell on the past, your mistakes. You always have to be moving forward. You just have to.
exactly.
You can't be stagnant.
Well, I don't wanna embarrass you, but I know I'm no question that you are an inspiration to a lot of people, and, your story needs to be seen and heard. While you're talking about those difficult times and you turn to humor to kinda work through that, it must have been hard to write those difficult things in your book. What was the process like? Was that cathartic for you, or was it re-traumatizing? Was it pulling the Band-Aid back off?
It actually, the first chapter that I wrote that was really hard to write was when my sister was hit by a car and died, and I was there. Actually, we were all there, and she used to be my imaginary friend. I talk about having gone to a psychologist because uh, when children suffered grief back in the day, no one seemed to care that they were grieving. They always went to the adults. And so I had no outlet for my grief losing my sister. So I ended up being kind of a troubled kid. And the one thing that I just learned from all of that is that when I talk about Beverly, my sister, now, I just let her know I thank her for having been in my life just for that little bit of time, and I don't feel the angst that I used to feel because every time someone would say, "Oh, my sister did this," or da 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 da, and I go, I don't have a sister. I don't have a brother. Well, I have brothers too, but I don't have a sister that I can do things with. The point is, though, that it's important that I wrote about all of that, including, the situation I had in college where when I was raped, and that was a very hard chapter to write. And honestly, I waited until some of the people in the chapter were deceased because the people the person was one thing, but that person had children, had other things, and I did not. I honestly didn't want them to see their father in the wrong light because I wasn't doing it to be vindictive. I was doing it because it was an interesting chapter in my world, and the fact that my roommates came together and helped me to deal with it and it needed to be told. And it's amazing how many people contacted me to talk about how they had been raped in school, and that listening to reading my story helped them process it. And we would just sit on the phone and just talk. And I felt like maybe I should have gone into psychiatry or something other. But it was one of those things of talk therapy works. And when my friends would call me and we talk about it, and they said, I have been holding on to this for so long. Thank you so much for helping me. So
Wow. Overcoming fear. That's another thing that I'm seeing woven throughout your life. What would you say to someone who says, "You have a courage I can't even begin to tap into. I'm afraid to make a left-hand turn at a red light, let alone climb out of these depths that I'm in to tell be brave enough to tell the true story." Like what how I can't even put it into words. How do you begin to conjure up this bravery, this courage that's created you to be who you are today? It's astounding, it really is.
well, it started out my life started out. in fear. I was so afraid to become my mother or some of the other women that were in my community. I did not want to be a woman with 14 kids from 14 different baby daddies and have a gold tooth. That wasn't me. But how could I get out? So it was fear, and I have to admit that I don't know if it was a guardian angel. People always talk about spirits and things that guide you along the way. I don't know, but every time a door was closed, another one opened. And
Mhm.
it kept me on my journey. It kept me, I mean, I got knocked down, things happened to me, but rather than just, saying, all right, I give up, I can't do this. I said, no,
You found
because
another way.
this is where I'm going. And whoever's listening to this, sometimes you have to just think to yourself that you have to go past that fear, as long as it doesn't kill you, to go past it, but to go past that fear and take baby steps. It's not something that happens overnight. Look how long it took me to get where I wanted to go. I feel that as long as you surround yourself with positive people who also want to have a good life and enjoy themselves and be happy, then I have so many friends now, comedy friends, but regular friends too. And this book has just brought a lot of people into my sphere. So the short end of that is that overcome. You got to overcome that fear. Fear will hold you back to the point where it will stagnate you, and you will never be able to put one foot in front of the other. And that's not what you want to do.
Most people, we kind of touched on this in the beginning. I feel like we're coming around full 360 with this. Most people stay where they're comfortable. They see the lot in life that they're given and they don't even see it as changeable. But that fear was a motivator. I think you're almost thankful for it. I don't know if you would have catapulted as far as you have had you not started so low. I mean, you just have so many interesting facets to your story. It's hard to even begin to scratch the surface in a half-hour interview.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everybody read the book.
Read the book. Do you have a copy of the book with you by any chance?
Say again.
Do you have a copy of the book right with you by any chance?
I do, but I have to get up to get it. Is that
I'll tell
okay?
you what, that yep, let's do that. Let's have you get up to get that.
I'm coming back. Here I
Okay.
come. Ready or not. I meant to put it on my desk and I forgot, but
That is no problem there. Escape from
there's it. Yeah,
dreaming my way out of the projects. How long
yeah.
did it take you to write that?
3 years. Uh, I wrote it very quickly, but then editing it, and I learned so much. That's another thing. I didn't know how to write. Someone said, write a book. I go, okay. So I just started writing down parts of my life. And then I finally got a book coach. And it's amazing what goes into writing a book. And
Yeah.
so it took me 3 years, but it got picked up by a publisher. And, the rest is history, I guess you can call it.
Mm. Yeah. What would you tell yourself as that child back in the projects, looking at yourself today and what the journey was like?
Well, I would just say, Lynette, you've got great things ahead of you. Keep going, keep moving forward, and you're going to be surprised when you get here. I'm guarantee it. Because it's been fun. It has just been, I never thought that as a septuagenarian that I would be so busy doing things that are fun. And because, everyone has a job. We work. And I love being an anesthesiologist, but I'm just having so much fun right now. So
You just enjoy life. You
I
have a
that's what
joy
I'm
that just
doing.
spills out of you. You
Yeah.
just glow. You know? You seem very happy. So, wow, this could be another half hour, but if people are interested in your story and they want to contact you, you're open for comedy, for listening, for mentoring, for to help through trauma, to help with suggestions for writing. You know, your arms are open to what friends may need right now as they're watching this or listening.
Yep, yep. And you can follow me on Instagram at Keynote Charity. You can follow me on Facebook. And if you're a business person, you can follow me on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
But the important thing is to reach out if you can. I now have an author website. It's author LynetteDCharityMD.com. And let me know. Just fill out things and I'll contact you back. That's what I have time for now is to help others. We are in a difficult world right now. Mental illness, mental health is at a dangerous low. We really need to help elevate people's moods. And if I can just tell you a joke, or
I'd
just
love that.
just you know, yeah. What you want me to tell a joke now?
Tell a joke now. Tell a joke now.
You made me do that the last time too. Yeah. Well, I just tell people that I'm an anesthesiologist and a comedian. I love it as an anesthesiologist to hear, Doc, thanks for keeping me alive. But as a comedian, I want to hear, Doc, you killed. That's me.
That that's Dr. Charity. Thank you so much. Just very quickly, what is next for you? What possibly is your future looking like?
Well, I'm into writing my second book. I wrote my whole life story, and I was told that I'm not a celebrity, so this is not an autobiography. So they ended up separating it out. So I have this one book, the beginning, and now I'm going to do another book, and then I have a third book. So I'm working on all of that and doing comedy and playing with my grandson.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's
I don't
that's
know
my
about
life.
you. I feel like I need a nap just hearing everything that you're accomplishing and what you've got ahead. I'll take the nap for you. You keep going.
Oh, okay. All right. I do take naps though. I just
Uh,
want you to know.
that's good. So you know to
Yeah.
rest. Dr. Charity, it is an absolute joy beginning to just dive in a little bit in your life and your story. Thank you so much. I hope that your book just flies off the shelves and whatever virtual shelves those are. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for sharing your heart so raw and real. You are loved and so appreciated. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.